Welcome to the Autism in Black podcast, where we focus on all things autism and the Black parent experience. Our goal is to always educate, support, and empower parents to advocate for not only their children, but themselves. Hello, and welcome to the Autism in Black podcast. I'm Maria Davis-Pierre, a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida and America's #1 autism advocate for Black parents. I am the founder and CEO of Autism in Black, Inc., where we aim to include the excluded. Today, we have Maurice Rush, who is a father, host, and community activist raised and residing in North Philadelphia. A graduate from Temple University, Maurice has made a career of helping people in the social services field. He currently hosts the My Brother show, which is a web-based series dedicated to uplifting, encouraging, and enriching Black men by shining a light on various emotional and mental struggles they have dealt with or are currently dealing with, but have not been given an outlet to express. He is also a co-facilitator of Iron Sharpens Iron, a faith-based men's support group that meets on the first Friday of the month. He is the father of Maurice Jr., a 11-year-old nonverbal boy who was diagnosed with autism at age 2, who is his pride, joy, and heart. I'm really excited to have Maurice on the show, to have a male's point of view, and to have a dad's point of view, which we don't get a lot around here. So I hope you enjoy today's episode. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. I am very excited about today's guest. As you all know, we have only had one Black male on this show, and it was my husband. I had to bribe him to be on here. But today we have Mr. Maurice Rush, who is going to talk to us about parenting from a Black dad perspective. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm great, Maria. I'm so glad to be on and really excited that I could represent the Black dads, and I just hope that I can do as well.
You will. Trust me, that bio was impressive. As I was telling you about it, brought a tear to my eye. I was like, oh my gosh. So can you tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, I usually say I'm just a guy, but I'm learning to talk a little more about myself. But I grew up, I'm born and raised in North Philadelphia. Grew up in a pretty poor household, and I dealt with just a lot of inner city, urban neighborhood issues growing up in a neighborhood that I grew up with. And I had my first son, well, my only son, I should say, Maurice Rush Jr. I had him in 2009. He was born in 2011, June 16th of 2011. He was officially diagnosed with autism. And so for the last 9 years, I've identified as an autism parent. Been a roller coaster of a journey, but I would not have it any other way. I do work in my personal life right now as well. We were talking about it before we went live, Maria, where I host a show called the My Brother show, and I'll go into more detail about it later on. But in it, I try to bring men to talk about issues and emotions and feelings and things like that, and to give them an outlet. And it's just as much of a struggle for me to get other men to come on live with me on my show, Maria, as it is for you. So I'm just hoping whenever I post one of my episodes, I always hashtag break the silence. And that's kind of what I mean. It's just like break the silence, because I do feel like we're trained to suffer in silence and to not deal with those things in a healthy manner.
Yeah, and we really don't hear a lot from dads, Black dads, especially when we start talking about parenting a child with a disability, parenting a child who is autistic. And what's your take on that?
It's tough because I feel like Black fathers have a really negative stigma surrounding them, right? So I think the stigma that we're absent, and even the ones that are present, there's almost a stigma that you're not doing enough. So I can remember at one point, I think when my son was 2, maybe 1 or 2, at some point around there, his mom was finishing up her final year in college, and I had just graduated, and it was right in that recession back then in like 2011. So I couldn't find work. So he was actually staying with me predominantly. And some of the responses I would get when I would tell women, especially, like, no, my son lives with me, Or you're like, oh no, what you mean live with you, man? Oh well, what about his mom? Well, what she like, and things like that. And it was almost
Mm-hmm.
assumed that, I wasn't doing enough. Or I can remember one time in particular, I showed up to church and the church had been started at like 7. So it was like 6 o'clock. And I like ran and picked up my son before the church, and I walked into church at 6:15, like fresh off of work, fresh off of running to meet him. And I'm like, oh, I gotta feed him now because the event starts at 7. If he doesn't eat before 7, he's gonna go wild. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the women was like, well, like as I walked in, I looked kind of frantic, and she was like, well, what's going on with you? I was like, I'm just tired. It's a long day at work. I had to go straight and get him, and I had this ministry for the next couple of hours that I had to run. And she was like, oh, well, what you think his mom feel? Like literally that was her response, having no idea what our situation was, what going on, where I was coming from, how often I had him. It was just like, well, what do you think his mom feel? So I think that it's tough in general just to be a black father, to be a good black father, a strong black father, and to have to fight against some of these stereotypes that just kind of surround us as a gender, I guess, species,
Mm-hmm.
gender, race, whatever you want to call black fathers.
No, it's true because my husband was expressing similar, similar situations that people always assume he's, not involved. And I guess, when your wife is the face of autism in Black, it does get a little like, oh, what's he doing? So I do try to talk about him a lot so people know that he's very involved. And I know with you, co-parenting with Jazz, and she does, both of you run the Maurice Rush Foundation. For those of you who don't know, Jasmine was on the second season of the podcast talking. So this is Maurice Jr.'s father that we're talking to. So having both of their perspectives is fun. So I know that it can be, a little intimidating when, the person you're parenting with is so uber involved, and then people are like, well, what do you do?
Right.
How involved are you? And it's like, okay, we're parenting our child.
Yeah, and I think for me, I felt that pressure a lot for
Mm-hmm.
a change. Like I really felt like, oh man, especially like right around the time that Jasmine and I like broke up. I
Mm-hmm.
really was like, oh my gosh. Like as we broke up, she was just launched. The foundation was just growing. It was like, oh man, she's getting all this recognition as this autism mom. And 75, 80% of the times that she's at these events, she's with me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and she's getting all of this, like, oh, you're such a great mom, and I'm home with them. And for a while, it really bothered me like a whole lot. I was like, man, like, I feel like I should get more credit for
Mm-hmm.
what I do. I remember specifically one day, I don't know where we were coming from, but me and her were together, and he was going back to her house. I was going to let him in her car, and we cried because he wanted to get in the car with me. At that moment, something clicked in me to say, it doesn't matter how much recognition other people give me, how much recognition she gives me. Ultimately, he knows that I'm his father. He knows the bond that he and I share. I don't have the liberty to curse, but F what they think,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
all that matters is at the end of the day, my son loves me. My son smiles when he sees me. My son jumps in my arms when he sees me. He's happy to see me. She recognizes that. And it's never been anything that, for anyone listening who heard Jackson, it's never been anything that he's intentionally done. But like
Mm-hmm.
Maria was saying, I think that when someone's doing so much, and I know I'm an autism father, but I don't know
Yeah.
if my calling is to be like this strong, like autism advocate. Like I don't
Yeah.
necessarily feel like that's my calling in life. It almost seems like, oh man, she's a single mom of autism. And it's like, no, a lot of the times when she's out there advocating on the front lines, he's home with me, or, he's in the house with me, or, things like that. And that's okay. Like that's my
Mm-hmm.
role as his father, right? To be there to support her, regardless of what our relationship status is, right? To be there to support
Mm-hmm.
her, to be that rock, to be available, and all of those things like that. So,
No, it's the same. Like when I'm out doing stuff, our kids are with,
mhm,
him, and he's doing, and he expresses the same thing, when I'm like, you should do this, you should start the Black father stuff. He's like, that's your lane. You're doing very well in it. That's not, what I'm supposed to be doing. So I have to respect that, that it's not, I shouldn't try to, tag him and pull him in as I try to, but we have to respect that. And it does come with that side of it of, are you married? Where's your husband? Is he around? And I'm like, okay, you guys are not here for that, but I'll talk about it. He's very involved just because you don't see him. And another thing is that I like to have that kind of control. You know, I need to be at the IEP meeting seeing what's going on, and I need to be the ones on the front line getting the information. So, you know, and we discuss it together, but, you know, I kind of take that charge of that. You know, there's roles that he takes his charge in, but this right here, this is my thing. So I think even if he was as involved as I am, I still would be like, okay, partner, you need to back it up just a little bit.
No, and that's Maria, that's where that term "DADvocating" that I was telling you about came from. That's exactly where that came from for me, where it was like, okay, I'll let you be in the front lines, but when I say "DADvocate," what I mean is like you gotta fight as a father, because I think that I don't mean to generalize, but I think that women carry the child, and when the child comes out, I feel personally that mothers kind of feel like they love the child more because they carried and they nurtured the child, and there's so many absentee fathers. So like the child comes out and it's almost like, you don't know nothing, Dad. I know everything. Just do what I say and get out of my way. And you see jokes about it all the time, like, oh, this is what happens when you leave the kid with Dad, or, I sent Dad to go did this and he came back with this. But when I say the term "DADvocating," it's almost like kind of like fighting for your place in that child's life. And I don't mean this through the court systems or anything like that. I mean, sometimes it's telling mom, like, hey, let me know when there's a doctor's appointment. I want to come. Schedule that around my, my schedule as well, not just around yours, because I would like to be there. Sometimes that looks like, hey, you know what? Let me go to this school meeting too. Let me go to this IEP meeting as well and sit in there. Sometimes it looks like, all right, Mom, you going off the deep end right now. Let me reel you back in. I'll have this conversation. I'll write this email out this time because, like I know that you love them, but like right now your emotions are all the way up, and I'm just going to kind of come in to throw a little bit of water on your flame right now. And that's kind of what I mean when I use the term "DADvocating," is don't just sit back and let mom do it, because you women, you guys are amazing. You guys will fight. You guys, and like there's a mother in general was powerful. And then like, you see when the father is absentee, like these single moms do their thing by themselves. They make it work financially, they make housing work, everything. When the dad is absentee, we know that y'all got it as fathers. But when I'm saying "DADvocating," it's all right, I know she got it. I know she will do it by herself, but I don't want her to do it by herself. And I want to be there. I want to be as supportive as I can be. So if I can make a doctor's appointment, if I got to leave work early too, me and Jasmine, my son's mom, we live 45 minutes away from each other. Oh man. Wow. So sometimes it's like, all right, well, I just got to take that 45-minute drive out there just to spend an extra couple hours with him this week, or just to put him to bed tonight, so that she has a couple of hours to rest. Like things like that, just so that she knows, like, I don't got to do this by myself. I'm not in this alone. I can count on him. Whereas if something happened to me and I'm not able to make those doctor appointments, or Lord forbid, I'm no longer on this earth, I know for a fact that Dad will be able to fill in all those roles and wear all those hats that I've been wearing myself, and do it just as effective as I did.
Wow. And, that is just how, it should be, in the sense of, your strengths are this, my strengths are this, and that's how we are going to navigate this. And, I was about to ask you, was you, living up in my home with you knowing that my husband had to be the one to reel me in a lot? I was like, I know something. Has he been talking to you? Because that is a key role for him. He's like, okay, yeah, no, let me talk, because you get out of pocket sometimes. So let's say you've been up in my house lately. But yeah, it runs like that, and we have to feed off, as he has told me many times, we have to feed off of each other's strengths. So there's times that he has to take the lead, because I can be very impulsive and irrational. So he knows that. So he's like, okay, let me just handle this one, because we're not going to get nothing accomplished if you go in there talking like you talking to me in the car right now. So, that's how it works. And I love the term "DADvocating," because a lot of times, as we've been talking about, people just don't see that side of dads advocating, but like you say, it's a different type of advocating. So I love that.
Yeah, and it's awesome. I proofread Jasmine's emails to the school now, and and I'm not even looking for typos or errors. I just look for verbiage in a strong language.
Oh, look, I might
So
need to send you some of mine so you can help me, because it gets rough over here. But you've kind of answered my next question of, what do you believe the dad's role is in parenting an autistic child?
So yes, and I did answer from a supportive standpoint. I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's a physical standpoint as well. My son gets aggressive. Reese is 11 now. The doctor actually just told us he's like 2 years away from puberty, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting old. He gets aggressive, and I'm 6 foot tall. When he hits puberty, Jasmine's like 5'1", 5 foot even. So when he starts to get bigger than her and stronger than her, like physically, I have to be there to intervene. I think my role is to realize that, right, at some point that he's going to be bigger than his mother. She may not be able to physically restrain her. So I need to get to a point in life where, if need be, I can take over as the primary parent, right? I think that it looks like, again, just being available at times, even more available sometimes, because you just get how draining it could be to have a full-time job and a full-time business that you're running and trying to raise this child and trying to make time to raise this child. And just how often you feel like you're not doing enough, right? Because I think I feel like that as well as a father. And just trying to make sure you're available for those moments to say, oh, hey, look, I'm in the area. I'll stop by to give you like 2 or 3 hours to lay down. Or, I get off of work at 5 and I'll drive out there and I'll put them to bed. I know it's bedtime. It's 9 o'clock. I won't get there till 6:30, but I got you when I get there. You go chill. I'll put them to bed tonight. Things like that, just to take the load off of mom. And that's in a co-parenting situation, but it also translates if you're married and in the same household, right? Where you can do those same things. Like, I'm not going to hang out with the fellas tonight because I got to make sure Maria has the night off tonight. Or I know I was supposed to go out this weekend or take that extra overtime shift for this weekend, but I know she really needs to break the night, so I'll pass on it so I can do it. And also, we got to kind of kill that ancient archetype of the dad where, he gets off of work and he comes home and doesn't talk to anybody. Then he goes in the bedroom and no one sees him again until he leaves to work the next morning. You got to suck it up sometimes and be involved and make connections and, take over. And sometimes it might not even be doing anything with the child directly. Sometimes it's, I'll clean up the house, or I'll do the dishes, or I'll take care of dinner. Whatever you can do to alleviate the stress or alleviate the load off of mom, make yourself available to do so, and not just sit back and say, she got it all the time. She got it. She got it. So
come on with this word, okay? I'm feeling that. I'm taking this sound bite and I'm going to be replaying this very often.
Don't get me in trouble with your husband, Maria.
No, he already knows what's up. But that is a perfect way of putting it. Sometimes it goes beyond just, taking care of the children, and what other roles can we do to alleviate the stressors off of each other, and I think that's a great way of putting it. And it brings me to a topic that, that it's very difficult to talk about, especially when you are a Black man, a Black woman raising a Black child during these times. But can we talk about how you, as a Black man, go about raising your Black son who has a disability and is non-vocal during these times?
It's petrifying. I think initially, when all like the racial tensions were arising, like the first few murders, I was kind of like, eh. But then there was that one where I think the autistic kid was with his caregiver, and the caregiver was like, he has autism. He won't respond when you call him, and they still shot him. Like, that one was the one that had me like, oh my gosh, like, oh my goodness. I'm constantly thinking about, like, what will Reese's life look like in 10 years? What will it look like in 15 years? If something happens to me and Jasmine tomorrow, God forbid, what would it look like right now? It's petrifying. And it kind of goes back to something I said earlier, where I was like, I'm never really sure if I'm doing enough. Like, am I preparing him for the real world? How do I prepare him for the real world? He doesn't talk, he's unable to express himself like the average person does. Like, am I doing enough to prepare him for the real world? Am I doing enough to prepare people for him? Because I had this belief that I don't think that I'm meant to adjust Reese to our world. I think that I'm meant to adjust our world to Reese. So it's like, am I doing a good enough job of adjusting the outside world to him, where if I'm no longer able to be there, if I'm no longer able to protect him from it, will he be okay? And it's scary, it's very, very scary to think, man, my child who's nonverbal, even if he's with a caregiver who's doing his job, obeying the law, and says this child is nonverbal, can't talk, either the caregiver can get injured or he could get injured. It's really scary. And I don't know if I particularly have an answer or a solution, I should say, to it, except for, I don't know, I could talk about God or not, but like, it's just stay prayed up to whatever deity or whatever belief structure you have. Stay prayed up. I think that there's real power in prayer. I think it's real power in words. I think it's real power in your thoughts and what you tell yourself. Just always try to remain optimistic about it, but also try to remain realistic with yourself. So don't be so optimistic and say, oh, well, I think everything will be fine. Like, take real steps to prepare your immediate circle. I've spoken to my brother and my sister-in-law before and said, if something happens to me, like, in Jasmine, can you guys take over as his, quote unquote parents? Like, I have those real conversations with people. And whoever you identify, take the steps to prepare them. Like, this is what his life looks like. And I'm 32 years old, so I don't anticipate dying in a mirror, anytime soon. But you never know. I mean, I live in North Philadelphia. Literally, what we have almost 350 murders on a year in Philadelphia right now. So you never know what will happen, when it'll be your time. So have those hard conversations with people. Like, if something happens to me, can you do this? Sometimes let someone, as hard as it is to trust someone else with your baby, or especially with your special needs child, sometimes step back and let them have it. If he's having a meltdown with someone else and it's someone that you've identified as a potential suitor, don't intervene right away. Sometimes kind of see how they'll handle that situation, things like that, so that you're really training up someone else. Whereas if something happens, like, he's taken care of. And again, just be as vocal as you can about the fact that this is my special needs child. These are his quirks, this bothers him, so that people are aware when they're around him. Oh, this might trigger him. Oh, that might trigger him. When they can adjust their behavior accordingly as well.
I completely agree with that. I get asked this question a lot about, how are you preparing your children? And the reality of it, just like, you've said, one, I don't have an answer to how I can prepare my children, because I truly believe that the onus is not on me to prepare my children. It's on the community to prepare themselves on how to interact with Black people, how to interact with those who are disabled, rather than me trying to prepare them for something of the unknown, because it's that person who has these biases that they're going to have to deal with, rather than my child just walking down the street minding their business. So it is a difficult thing to try to answer, to even try to have that conversation about, because the truth of the matter is we can be ever so prepared and still lose our life at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's scary. Well, just as a Black man, it's scary. And I've had the conversation before. Like, I'm really big now at this age on my farewells to people. Like, so I'm really big on telling people how I care about them, just in general, not just my friends. Just like telling people, like, yo, I appreciate this. Yo, I remember you did this before, and I really appreciate it. Yo, I love you. Yo, I miss you. Things like that. People who have my phone number will tell you I randomly just shoot them text messages like, hey, just want you to know I love you. I'm not, about to do anything, but it's because I literally don't know. Like, I just was reading an article where it was like 55 gunshots let off in the playground not too far away from me. They said it was 30 people out there playing. And I'm like, God, that could have been me out there with my son on
Mm-hmm.
the swing. I just saw a video on Facebook earlier today where a guy was just sitting in a car dealership up in New York, and they ran in there and just shot the whole dealership up. And he's in there with his three kids,
Yeah.
literally like laying on top of them, shielding them. And it's like, that could be me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really, really a scary prospect out there. But if I can do my best to prepare the people that will be surrounding Reese in an event that something happens to me for him, then that's the best that I can do. So I would urge any parent of any child, not just with autism, but with any disability, though, to not hide it, like to not be ashamed of it, and to do your best to let people in, let people help you, let people know this bothers my child. If they invite you to a party, because I know sometimes like they'll say, "Oh, just bring them anyway." You gotta let them know, like, I might need a quiet room. If you can have a quiet area for me, that would help. Or what's on your menu so I know if I got to stop, or can you have this, like things like that to kind of get people into the know of like this is him, this is what comes with him. And then also eliminating people who aren't open to, I guess, adjusting to your child, for lack of a better phrase. Just learn to say like, well, look, like, well, he comes with me. So I actually just got out of a relationship, and one thing she said to me at some point was, "Oh, can we go out on dates without your kids?" And
Oh.
I was like, yeah, nah. I was like, yeah, nah. Like he's with me. So if that's your expectation, not to say that every time the kid has to be with me, but if your expectation is that you can't hang around me without the kid, how are we going to work? Because they come with me, and being okay with that too. And that's the other thing, and not feeling bad. Your first priority after yourself should be your children.
Wow. That brings me to another important topic because, we're talking about the impact that it can have and how tough it is and the stuff that we have to think about. But let's talk about the importance of mental health, in raising our Black children during these times and raising our children with a disability and being a Black man in America today, and how you guys don't like to talk about your feelings a lot. We had this discussion before we started recording. It's hard to try to tap in there sometimes and get those feelings out.
So I actually just started therapy, individual therapy, maybe in July. I've done 8 sessions, and it's been like hella helpful for me. I think that in general, as the Black society, like we normalize trauma in a sense where like everyone's dealing with something traumatic, so we don't view it as trauma. So like everyone's heard gunshots, or everyone's seen someone get robbed, or everyone grew up in like these poor low income areas, or everyone had parents who fought and argued. So these are all things that mess up your mental. But like since we know so many people with similar experiences, we don't view them as like traumatic experiences. But I think for any father that's dealing with a child with special needs, especially a son, and in my case, a son who actually has my name, allow yourself to feel, right? So when I knew Jazz was pregnant with a boy, like from the moment that like we got the positive test, I was like, oh, that's a boy. So I mapped out like this whole life, right? And this whole entire life of him. And I'm like, yeah, I can't wait till he's big enough that I could play video games with him, and I can take him to the basketball courts, and I can wrestle with him, and I can do all these great things. I could put him on my older brother is a coach. I was like, I could put him on my brother's basketball and football teams, like all these great ideas. I was like, hey, he got my name, and it's gonna be like 90 generations of Maurice Rushes, because we're gonna be like the King Henrys back in the day, where it's like King Henry the 12th. Like it's gonna be Maurice Rush the 12th one day, and I'm about to start that trend right now. And these are all things I mapped out when I knew I had a son on the way. And our actual deal was, I was like, if it's a boy, it's a junior. If it's a girl, I don't care what your name is, because I don't got no girl names. But if it's a boy, it's definitely a junior. And he was a boy, and I'm like, yes, my son, we out here, my legacy, we passing it on, we good. And then June 16, 2011, hey, he has autism, and he's not interested in basketball, he's not interested in football, he's not interested in video games, and all of these things that I thought that I was going to be able to experience with him, I didn't experience. And that's a real grief process.
It
It's a
is.
real, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not a physical death where someone's perishing from the earth, but it's a death of a dream. And that can be just as traumatic and just as hurtful. So any father dealing with that, like I urge you to feel that. Like
Mm-hmm.
feel it. Cry if you have to cry it out. Talk to someone if you have to talk to them. Talk to mom. Talk to your friends. Talk to your parents. Talk to someone. Talk to a therapist. I mean, therapy works. Like just get that out because you can't walk around with this, oh, he's gonna be okay mindset. Oh, he'll be all right. Oh, he'll grow out of it mindset. Or, oh, I'm all right, I'm good mindset. Like you can't do that. You have to feel those things. I always recite whenever someone reaches out to me who has like a newly diagnosed child with autism, the first thing I do is send them that poem, Welcome to Holland. I'm sure you're familiar with it, Maria. But in a poem, it says, Italy, all my life I waited to go to Italy. How am I in Holland? And that's literally how I felt. I was like, all I wanted was a son that was going to be a junior to do these things. Like that was my Italy, but I ended up in Holland. And then when I had time to sit back and like process all my emotions and just kind of observe Reese, I started to realize like, oh, there's some things I legitimately don't got to worry about
Mm-hmm.
because of his diagnosis. So I don't got to worry about Reese falling in with the wrong crowd, being a gangbanger. I don't got to worry about those things. I can take a nap, and well, now he eats a lot, but for a long time, like, I could take a nap and the house would look the same exact way it did before I woke up. And that's like dope. Honestly speaking, I probably shouldn't put this out there. If I ever don't want to go to an event, people don't question me if I say, I got Reese, he won't handle it. But like there are some perks, some great things, some amazing things about being a parent of a child with special needs. And if you don't allow yourself to feel that initial grief, that initial feeling of loss, you're not going to be able to experience those very wonderful, very beautiful things about what your child does do, who your child is. I lost my father in 2010, and all I can remember is like after my dad passed away, this was like before Reese got his official diagnosis, but before they were like when they first started saying, hey, he might have autism.
Mm-hmm.
I just could remember coming home some days and just feeling like lost, like, oh my gosh, I just lost my father. What am I going to do? And Reese would just be so happy and giddy. And then even after the funeral, like I just remember him just being so happy and giddy. And it's like, how could I be sad with
Mm-hmm.
this beautiful smiling face in front of me? And that's kind of been like a reoccurring theme in my life. Whenever things try to get me down, whenever things go to hold me down, it's like, how can I remain sad when I have this beautiful smiling face in front of me? And that's the strength that I need to keep going some days. That's the strength that I need to get up in the morning some days. That's the strength that I need to go to work another day, to press through another day. And I saw a quote one day, and it was like, it's funny, how people always think that we come along and save our kids, but our kids actually save us. And that's how I feel about Reese, man. Like, there's been so many times I wanted to quit, so many times that I wanted to throw in the towel. But because I was able to deal with those initial emotions about it,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm just able to look at him and say, I can't. My baby boy needs me. My son needs me. My
Yeah.
son needs me. So whatever I can do, I gotta do it. So I urge you guys to feel immensely, talk to a therapist, talk about those emotions, because I'm telling you, it's really helpful.
It is. And I don't say that just because I am a therapist, but it is, and I think we don't have enough dads who talk about that initial grief,
Mhm.
about getting that diagnosis and how that feels. It is, like you said, it can be something very deep that you have to talk about. You have to get those feelings, out. And I think there's also so much parent shaming, especially when it comes to Black dads. That's another reason that, you guys don't really talk about things, because so much parent shaming. It's like, if I tell my true feelings, people are going to be
Mhm.
side-eyeing me, looking at me crazy, so it's like the need to just hold it all in, but having that safe space to talk about these issues is very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent most of my 20s, Maria, thinking that strength, Black strength, looked like suffering in silence. I thought that was necessary for me as his parent. And I was like, kind of to go back to the DADvocating thing, I was like, no, the emotions, that's for mom. She's able to cry and be sad about all that stuff. But I got to be strong, because if I show that chink, then like I'm failing her. But I'm learning. I've learned that being able to say, yo, this is not easy for me either. This is hard for me as well. But you know what? We're going to get through this together. That's so much stronger than walking around like you don't feel nothing or this doesn't bother you. That's so much stronger to turn to somebody and say, yo, it hurts. My son got diagnosed with autism. It's tough. I had a heart to heart with I have two older brothers. I had a heart to heart with them last year. And one of the things I said to him was, I was like, when I told you guys Reese was diagnosed with autism, you guys never checked on me. You guys never talked to me. Like, you guys just kind of like, huh, you got it. And I feel like I needed more than that at the time. And I'm telling you guys today, I need more than that moving forward. Like, I need you guys more so to be there to help me through this, because there are some days where I still get upset sometimes. Like, I'm not going to sit here and lie. There are some times where my friends text me about playing basketball, and I'm like, Jesus, I don't got a babysitter today. And Reese is 11 now, so 11 would be the age where I'm like, yo, yeah, come to the course with me, Reese. Like, where I would really be getting them into it. And I'm like, dang, yo, I don't got a babysitter today. If I take him there, he's going to freak out because he's going to be overwhelmed with the senses. And I got to sit out. And there's some moments where, like, not just with basketball, with like other events in general, like a Dave and Buster's trip or a trip to the arcade or things like that, where I'm like, I really would love to take Reese and have him join in with us, but I can't. And that's hurtful, you know, in those moments. So when I was talking to my brothers, I was like, I need you guys. Like, I need your help with this burden sometimes. And I'm strong and I can carry it most of the time. But there's some moments where I need y'all. And I'm not even necessarily saying just sitting with Reese at times. Sometimes I need y'all to just check on me, make sure I'm cool, invite me and him over, you know, so he can get to know you guys as his uncle. Just listen to me vent sometimes about it, you know, anything that you can do to just kind of help me, because this is not an easy burden to bear. It's not an easy burden to bear, but it's a lot easier if you have people to bear it with you.
Yeah, that is very powerful, you know, that you even had that conversation with your brothers to talk about, because we all know how it works in Black families, okay? And it's not, you know, sometimes we different.
Right.
So having, you know, that kind of conversation, you know, that is very powerful. And then sitting here on this platform and saying we had to have this conversation because I had to let them know what I needed. And this is what I need. That's very powerful.
Yeah, you can't assume, and that's not just like for family, like with any relationship with any person, you can't assume that they know what you're thinking. Like, you just gotta tell somebody, like, no, this bothers me. That doesn't bother me. I like that. You know, I would appreciate if you did this. That offends me when you do that. It's almost like kindergarten, but like, we ain't mind readers out here.
No.
I think give people a chance. I think we spend, however long you've been on this earth, you spend all this time identifying people as family, friends, you know, close relationships. And then when stuff gets rough, the first thing you do is isolate yourself from them. And that's an enigma to me right now. Now I'm really trying to figure out. like I'm 32 years old. I spent 32 years identifying people who I want to be in my corner, who I want to be my supporters. But the first thing I do when stuff gets rough is think to isolate myself from them. And I can't figure that out.
Hey, sometimes we have to protect our own peace as well. I make sure to have an amazing support system, but sometimes I just need to be alone as well to get away from that overstimulating of everything that's going around. And that's how it works sometimes. Your support system is there for when you need them.
Right.
When you don't, you know, you handle yourself. When you need them, they'll be there.
Right.
You know,
right.
That's how I think of it, because I'm a loner as well. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I need time to myself, because, you know, I'll just be going ghost and people be texting and like, girl, where you at? I'm over here trying to get my self-care together. And that's just how it is. You know, we have to make sure that we do what's best for our mental health, and those in our support system will understand that.
Yeah, and self-care is important too. So I completely agree with that. Do what you enjoy doing. Don't, I think, not just respect, like parents in general, I think sometimes we let our parenting responsibilities almost control us in a
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
But like, don't get so overwhelmed trying to be a good parent that you forget about you in the
Exactly.
process. So sometimes you just got to take some time to sit back and do what you enjoy doing,
It is.
you
That
know.
guilt is very real, and we will be hard on beating ourselves up like, I really can't go out. No, you can. You can take time for yourself, and it's okay to do
Mhm,
that, and it's not selfish to do so.
mhm.
So I have to tell parents all the time, like, if you are not at your own 100%, how can you be 100% in the roles that you navigate of being a parent, being a partner, a wife, employee, running a business? You can't be 100% in those things if you yourself are not 100%.
Yeah, agreed 100%.
Like, sometimes I spit some gems out here, okay?
I'm all for Jim's. Nah.
So, now, as we begin to wrap up this wonderful conversation, any resources, advice, tips for parents and caregivers, for dads that are listening?
Just talk about it. That's the best thing I could say. I said it earlier. Initially, I believe we go into protect, hide, ashamed mode because people look, people stare, people curl their faces up, right? When you have this child who's not acting, I guess, as they believe a normal quote unquote child should. So I think we look to kind of hide the child and not take them out as much. But honestly, the best thing you can do is be as open as possible. I can freely take my son to church with me because everyone in my church knows he has autism. And when he has his episodes, no one stares. Like no one, says anything. They just, I take him out the service and, when they see me at the service, they're like, "Is he okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, he was fine. It was just too loud in there." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And it just talk about it, be open about it, identify supporters, and don't allow their disability to make them miss out on the world. So
Mm.
let them see the world like you see it. So take them on vacation with you sometimes. Take them to that show. Take them to that play. Take them to that movie. Do it. They deserve as much of the world as we do, you
Mhm.
know. So I would urge anyone to be as open you can. Give them every chance at a quote unquote normal life as any other child would, because that's all they want to do. They want to have fun. They want to eat. They want to
Yes.
laugh. They want to joke. They want to make friends, just like anybody else does.
Mhm. I love that. So, where can the listeners find you, listen to your show? And I have to say, you and Jasmine are very similar. I tell you guys really uplift people because this has been an amazing episode. So, I appreciate that. So, where
Thank
can
you.
listeners find you and find your show and listen to that?
Well, you can find my show. It's called the My Brother Show. It's geared predominantly towards Black men. We said earlier, we don't talk about our emotions. I actually air every other Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. So this is actually my off week. But Wednesday, the 30th, will be my next episode. We're going to talk about how men handle their money. But we've talked about topics such as going through the custody court system as a man. We had an episode devoted to uplifting Black women. Talked about a bunch of different things. I air every other Wednesday on my Facebook page. You can just look me up by my name, Maurice Rush. I'm the only person in the world with that name. So, Maurice Rush.
Fine, just
Just look me.
fine.
Or you can follow me on Instagram at Rushzilla, like Godzilla, but like Rushzilla. That's my personal account on Instagram, or my show's account is the My Brother Show. No fancy spellings, no funky punctuations, just the My Brother Show. Again, the next episode airs September 30th at 7 o'clock p.m. We'll be talking about finances. And also starting in October on the first Monday of the month, I'm going to do something called Mogul Mondays, where I'm going to highlight an African American business owner. I'm just going to go live and give them a chance to plug their business. Just because, again, I just want to do the best job that I can to uplift the Black community. So that'll start the first Monday in October. I believe that's the 5th. Oh, man. Yeah. And I'm real approachable. Message me, talk to me, comment on my stuff. I respond. I like to have fun. So, like, I don't want like people to think that I'm just this unapproachable personality. Like, talk to me. Like, I started it off. I'm just a guy out here trying to make a difference. So.
Love that. And we'll have all of that information in our show notes for you all as well. So I have to thank you for being on the show and having such an open and candid conversation with me.
Anytime, Maria. Anytime.
Yeah, I'm
anything I can do to support you, I got you.
Y'all hear it. And I'll be in the inbox, be like, look, I need you to be back on the show.
Anything you need me to do, I got you, man. I love supporting other African Americans, so it'll be my pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you for having me, Maria. Thank you guys. You guys have a great evening or day, whatever time of day it is you're listening to this.
If you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can always be notified when a new episode drops. To get the resources shared on today's podcast and the show notes, make sure to go to autisminblack.org/podcast. And be sure to share your takeaways from the show on IG stories and Twitter using our official hashtag AIBpod so that we can find them and share them. And if you want to continue the conversation from today's episode, make sure to join our Autism in Black podcast Facebook community. And please make sure to answer the questions to gain entry. Thank you for listening and joining me this week. Have a good one.